What's up everyone, it's Jambor's new video, and today I will be breaking down a staging of Emil and Alejandro Bailando solo in Romania, which I was creative director of, and I would like to actually show you how complex work on staging is. So if you're ready, let's do this. Alright guys, subscribe, like, comment in the comments below. There will be a lot of comments because this video will not just tell you because now it's very fresh. We became third. It's amazing result for basically complete underdogs. So I'm very proud of the whole team. I will get to this a little bit later, but I would like to really start from how much work actually on one staging is and what's necessary to make a staging the way this is kind of Eurovision ready. Then of course you will receive it, or you can skip into the end of the video where you will see like how are the expectations versus reality. Because for example, last time I saw the Finland, how their rehearsal from their studio or from their training ground was looking versus reality. Then you can check how it was working in Romania, TVR, without any further comments, which I don't think it actually needs. It is self-explanatory. Well, but let's start about the first thing, what staging is. For those who's following this channel and watching my master classes, which I did especially 1 year ago, more of them, a little bit less or much more less this year, where I'm trying to explain simple elements of staging which needs to work together and connect to support the music. The staging basically is here to support the best possible way the music it's representing, to support the artist to make things what you want to pop out and create an amazing illusion for the audience to enjoy without like thinking what was this about, but more likely to enjoy and enjoy the way you want them to. If you want them to feel sad, if you want them to feel happy, whatever you want, you know, something different is doing it for rocky song, something different is doing it for such type of a song. And it's break down to light design, LED fill, choreography, scenography, the idea itself, camera work and camera edit. Yes, in TVR, respectively for TVR, for those guys, for Emil and Alejandro, we were able to do most of those things, and then we were able to guide the edit and the cameras, at least in our heads, but it wasn't in our hands, because the whole principle of this staging creation was, what if we win? Then let's make it like we would do it for Eurovision almost, because of course it was still set for the specific studio in TVR, in Romania, and it must have been done for the local purposes, yet with very simple addition or very simple upgrade already for Eurovision with all the materials necessary. So if in the case we would win, TVR would just can take it and show it at Head of Delegation meeting. This is how we want it, with little tweak here and there, with this different graphics a little bit, with of course different light design for sure, but made for the cameras also for Eurovision. So TVR basically received a Eurovision material already. And that's a complex thing, especially when you have like 5 days to prepare it and then another, let's say 5 days before the show to also practice it and be sure that everybody is delivered everything. And then very few rehearsals we had to make it happen live. And what it consists of. So imagine that I met Emil and Alejandro something like 5 days, not maybe even, before TVR was having a deadline for receiving the materials from them. And first of all, I commented on their auditions, and with this song it was very hard to find a formula how to make a duet, because Emil and Alejandro, Emil is a dancer, a choreographer, amazing one, and Alejandro is a singer. How to connect those two energies, the two main characters, which is already hard in duets in general, but how to make it look natural and fluent and not beating your eyes in the way of such a music, how to make it. So I told them this, that their energy from the auditions didn't really match, and you can watch it in my video, this is not a secret. So I tell them the same thing, and we need to find a way how to match it, or how to make it feel that actually this completely two different energies are in synergy, even though they are kind of impossible to be, and make it as an advantage. That was the first thought. Then I went through like many little thoughts. I was writing them down here and there, this and this, and I came out with the idea, which was the auto service. Now that must be like, wow, this is like a Spanish song. What it does it have to auto service? So I have few tasks. First of all was to think about a space where I can make those two energies be compatible in a natural way. Second of all was I wanted this act, regardless it's a Spanish song kind of, Latino and dancey and funny, how it to be very Romanian, how to make it for all the Romanian audience digestible, funny, and also somehow, you know, this way, with some Easter eggs inside, of course, just also for Eurovision. How to make it complex yet digestible, how to make this idea funny but also recognizable. And I came with the idea of auto service, car service, which then developed amazingly, and how to then also dress the artists, all of the dancers, how to make it happen, what props there. And slowly, or very fastly actually, I came with the idea that there will be a car on the stage, which ideally would be an old Dacia, all set up a little bit kind of in the 90s or early 90s, a little bit so with modern tweaks, with a role, with a story. Because I think if you create the staging a story, then you don't necessarily need amazing camera operators, you don't need a great director, you need just people to shoot it and still to be in, you know, to have like these anchor elements, the setup, the established shot, the established environment, not to be just a random show, but something a little bit more. Then I presented it to the guys and we started inventing how they would move on the stage, what would happen. But choreography, for example, it wasn't my thing. This is what they came for. I just guided them what would be nice to kind of have, but not in the way how they move, but more likely where their positions. And the story was like this. Alejandro is the owner of the car. He comes to the auto service and nothing works. Emil is pissed that nothing really works, or he didn't receive money, and he's starting to have a fight. And Alejandro is the nice guy, and Emil, it's really not the one. Alejandro, with the music, make all of the people on the set dance, unless Emil is rejecting this thought and he hates the music, but slowly and slowly throughout the song, he gets to the point that actually he loves it and he starts dancing also. So there was like the arc of, let's say, hater versus I actually like it, which I actually think somehow we were very successful at, even on unconscious level with all the audience, not just in the studio, but also outside in televisions. At least I hope that this anchor, even maybe some of them cannot really name it, they feel that those energies really work, because I basically let them, the boys, to be different characters on purpose. And then that their matching energies are not the same on stage actually is an advantage. So that was the very first thing, how to make something which is hard to connect, at least in such a song, together, that it actually would be very pleasant to watch without feeling there is something fishy and weird. For this, Emil needed to practice a lot of acting, because other task was, this is a funny song. It's not a joke act really, but it's a funny, positive song. Let's make it a little bit telenovela comedy, which actually with this naming a Romanian telenovela in music, that was Emil's idea, or he said it, and I said like, we need to keep it, I really like it. Then we met for the studio in the first time, and I explained the idea of the car service and all of those little things, also to the rest of the crew, to the dancers, amazing creative people, hardworking. And I just said it would be nice also that this thing also has a branding. And I said like, it must be something what we all know about car services, especially from the past, that they will take your money and you don't know actually for what. And there is an amazing word in Romania, which is "țeu bani." I never say it correctly, but it basically means I take your money. So it's another like connection to Romanian audience, because I think everybody can live with it. And then of course we dress the show the way how it might look, but of course in this kind of a little bit movie-like style, that we use the blue colors for the crew and different things for the boys. One elegant, one it's a little bit, we call it in here in Romania, cocalar way, a little bit, even though Alejandro, Emil was a little bit more elegant for this, but on purpose, because he undressed, then during it show some nice shirt and so on. But it was more like, those are my two guys of the most interest, and then the crew, to make them pop out, you know, to be really, but also still look like a crew, and crew of auto service and a car service. They all, or at least in the past, blue, you know, blue workers dress. So also the girls needs to be in blue. So then when they dance together and create a formation, they look like one homogenic, logical thing. So that was the first thing. Then came on the choreography, which was Emil and Emanuel actually on it together. And my goal was to explain them how I would like to work with camera. But for this, of course, I need also to see already the part of choreography and how to approach it. One camera from here, then I would like this shot, then they do this. Okay, I want camera to do this and that. Then they had this fight, this and this. And this is the part of choreography which is already connected to cameras. Then I needed to communicate with the light designer. The light designer had his own idea, of course, but I needed to explain exactly what I wanted to radiate, because light design and what's happening in LED are kind of a connected worlds. In LED, with Robert, our graphic guy, we wanted to design, and he designed it, of course, I just guided him again, a garage and a wreckage around, and all the elements somehow dancing. I wanted the music to really follow the lights and everything what's blinking, for example LED, also those little bulbs, to follow the music in some kind of a specific beat the music has. Some other elements were doing drums, some elements were doing guitars, now I'm saying, you know, some other created trumpet and whatsoever, also connected to some movements. And also with the lights, because I didn't want those two things to do exactly the same, but support each other, which in general connects to the whole story of the song and makes you feel that this is somehow natural, because no element actually of the song is missing there, somehow visualized. If it's in choreography, if it's in the lights, if it's in the LED, or all connected together, every single element of this staging of the song actually is supported, which you can actually see in here on this wide angle, which is basically shot on my camera from the studio, just for me to analyze it a little bit, because we are also limited by the studio at some point, because it's not big, even though it looks huge. It's a small thing. You need to place a car in it, and then to put the car in it, that was the idea. First of all, it's like if you have a car service, you need to have a car. Then you can give people a roll, because they can roll around the car. But there is one more thing why such a prop was very important, because the LED screens, because of the stage was small, would create a flat feeling. Basically, closer to you are, it feels very, very narrow. And I wanted to break this feeling, so to put something in the middle to break the cascade of it, so basically create kind of a depth. That was the other goal. The graphics needs to create a little bit of depth. That's why the garage is a little bit like in different perspective, to make it look basically bigger than it actually is. The lights were recreating the scene, so sometimes they were caging me out those spaces. So again, it lifted it in the various, like it looks deeper, and deeper makes you focus on specific points, because if everything is flat, you don't know where to look. So that was more likely a professional logical argumentation also in my head, how to have those things. And also we decided to break it down with another car service element, so it looks a little bit filled, it looks a little bit more realistic, but also for the eye pleasing, because this is the most important thing, that it's eye pleasing. And if those elements are, for example, not here, it would still look a little bit more empty, but they are breaking down the scene to make every angle of the camera kind of feel filled, not just with the artist and the screens, but also with something which breaks this connection. It's like in the photography, it's good to have layers. So we created layering. And all those elements together then created the show. Of course, my goal was to have it also perfectly shot, and also with this thought which I was saying in the beginning, that it needs to be done almost on Eurovision level. So I created basically visualizations, or put all those together with also the direction, look and feel, where I would like to have a shots, which are principle. I communicated also with the director from TVR, where I want exactly specific shots. I asked him for like 5 specific things. Then you can compare if they are there or not, but this is not in my hands. And you can they can focus at, but of course there were much more instructions, but they were of course communicated as more like F at Eurovision, so they would know how to do it, because the difference between, let's say, local television and Eurovision is that, for example, Eurovision has a Q pilot and you can program all of those elements I was talking about directly into it, and then basically it automatically is happening. Of course, still people operating it and so on, but you don't need to live edit, which is the hardest task, to remember every single, I don't know, beat, some tempo rhythm, because of course edit is helping again with something, what is the instrument, something specific gesture, some specific movement, supporting again the whole thought, because all of it needs to be coherent. So the show was basically made completely for cameras, even though it worked amazingly, of course, in the cell, because regardless what the effort was behind it and how many hours I spent with light designer and the graphic and the production on phone, after all, if the guys who are going on the set to dance, to sing, to perform are not radiating this great mood and this great vibe and this great atmosphere, those elements doesn't matter regardless. And I'm very glad that all the team, production, me, light design, graphic design, crew, everybody was in it, and they really practiced a lot. Of course, in such a brief times, you must understand it's very challenging to do everything and do it and coordinate it in such a super short time, when we weren't even have a time to meet very often, all of this. So everything was on phone, Google Meets, and I don't know what other FaceTimes, WhatsApp video calls, and so on and so forth. And of course, there is not really a language barrier, but still, how to explain exactly this moment when you cannot be with that person. But we amazingly managed. Of course, we adjusted something on the set when we saw it in the studio, and you say, okay, this is too much intensity of this would be good to be a little bit more left, this right centered, and so on. But of course, during this little meantime, how everybody is so involved in it, there are coming so many ideas. And this is the challenge, because you need to somehow manage it, that you separate the good ones from the ones which already are too much, wouldn't work or not work in this concept, or they are too complicated for this kind of a stage, in the complexity with all the departments you need to communicate with, and they are not able to sit in one room and really make it help like working. And to manage all those little things, this is of course the hardest part, this psychological element, because come on, everybody in this industry, and it's a must, has an ego, and to balance this is hard. But I say that there is no good artist without ego, and this is actually good. Actually, I learned a lot of lessons because of this, also to listen also a little bit better, to approach things also a little bit better again. And for this I'm extremely thankful, because if you have such a pressure, such a short time, and you cannot even imagine how hard it was to get the car on the stage, and you cannot imagine, this is for like just the car, it's one separate thing. But I'm glad that we also were able to rig it thanks to Tommy, and the car was really interactive at this part, so it wasn't there just a sitting prop, very ugly nice Dacia S, so this is how I would call it. And that we after were able to use it. Of course, we wanted also to use more, but of course there were some limits. We accepted it, and life goes on. Yet there is the part for you to compare what we gave and what we received. And write me in the comments below, what do you think? Because I will leave this without any further comment. As I said previously, it's self-explanatory. Enjoy.
solo, bailando solo, sto bailando solo, bailando solo. ¡Vamos!
Test I can face, but now I'm losing joys, reclaiming my space. Every heartbeat of my own place. Bailando solo, bailando solo, sto bailando solo, bailando solo, bailando solo, bailando solo, sto bailando solo, bailando solo.
No looking back, siga adelante, siente el impacto. Strong cause they never, I'm moving my truth. Ambale este vida con fuego y virtud. So here's to the journey, the highs, the downs. Sigue bailando sin miedo, no doubt. Juro, 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 juro. Let's go. Bailando solo, bailando solo. Sto bailando solo. Bailando solo.